warm introduction. I've actually limited my membership at the moment to UK, but what next? Tony's speaking tonight from the advanced manual, the entertaining manual, and the first project is the entertaining speech. When you got to that level where you're doing advanced speeches, and you've been a member of Toastmaster for some time, I think the audience tend to think, oh, they're very experienced. And the evaluators say, oh, they're very experienced, they're very good. And you sit in your chair thinking, oh, they're building me up so much, and I've got further to fall now. I don't know about Tony, but I think the nerves still get wrapped because you've been raised, elevated to that level. So I'm not going to do it.
Expect nothing.
The entertaining speech, the objectives, the executive summary. The speech needs not to be funny. It simply gives the audience an opportunity to enjoy themselves in some way. It may have a message, but that's not the main focus of the speech. Relate your speech to the audience and its interests, and incorporate personal experiences. Be positive, avoid lecturing, and strive for simplicity. The audience should not have to work out how to follow your presentation. The objectives in the manual, and also from Tony's point of view, are to entertain the audience by relating a personal experience. I'd like to welcome to the stage Tony Wynyard with a speech entitled Highway to Hell. So with a speech entitled Highway to Hell, please give a warm, rousing applause for Tony.
Have any of you had a near-death experience? A few? Okay. Now I don't mean, watching Justin Bieber live, because that's not simple. or watching Jose Mourinho try to be sincere, because that can be a near-death experience. No, I mean a real near-death experience where if luck hadn't have gone your way, someone would have been delivering a eulogy about you very soon. I'm going to tell you about a situation that happened to me some time ago. In the 80s, I was offered a DJ contract in Norway, in the Arctic Circle, in the very north of Norway. And I made the decision to drive to this place in January. Now, for those of you who know Norway, it's not the warmest of countries. And the further north you go, the more snow you find. I was 24. Life was great. I just finished a DJ contract in Switzerland, and I come back and I got really lucky. I got a fortune on the property market, not because I had any experience or knowledge of the property market. I was purely lucky, and I managed to get 14 grand. Now, for those of you who, well, let's put it this way. The only problem with this, I was terrible with money. Oh, actually, I need to correct that. I am terrible with money, because I was using the past tense then. Now, some of you who were maybe a bit more financially astute than me, if you had 14 grand, what would you do with it? Just give that a bit of thought. You might invest. There's all sorts of things you could do. Now, a sensible person probably would have invested. But 30 years ago, this was a lot of money for a kid that was brought up in a council estate. So what did I do any of those eminently astute financial situations such as Nike just said? No. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I am not so pragmatic. And instead, I bought a Golf GTO. It was black with shiny wheels. And it looked hot. So, drove to Newcastle. I boarded the ferry to Harwich, boarded the ferry to Oslo. Wonderful, wonderful, and that's the wrong Scandinavian city. And I set off, and this is well before sat-navs. And I hadn't actually worked out how long it was to where I was going, or how long it was going to take. However, I did know, or I do know now, that Norway, the coast of Norway is particularly long. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the coast of Norway from the very bottom part to the very top is 1,500 miles, which is almost the equivalent of the entire east coast of the United States. It's a very long country. I was driving from Oslo to a place called Buda in the Arctic Circle, which was pretty far. Anyway, I've set off, and I'm soon seeing stunning scenery and amazing mountains and these fantastic fjords, and it was just an incredible drive from a breathtaking scenery point of view. And I was doing my best to avoid those scary blokes wearing helmets with horns and that kind of stuff. No? Okay, we'll get it. My plan was to stop halfway and grab a bite to eat and have a sleep, and then set off again. But the journey was there. I didn't really encounter much traffic, and before long, well, I say before long, after 10 hours, I'd reached a place called Trondheim. And now in my mind, Trondheim wasn't that far from Buda. So I had a bite to eat, and I set off again. I was full of energy because I'm thinking, well, I've got to Trondheim this quick. It's not going to take me much longer, and I'm going to be in Buda. The only problem was, as I left Trondheim, I saw a sign that said, Narvik, 1,000 kilometres. Now, I didn't exactly know how far Narvik was from Buda, but I knew Buda was a hell of a lot closer to Narvik than it was to Trondheim. So I'm thinking, wow, I've got a long way to go. And by now it's nightfall, and it was like a cartoon character just stepped into the car and just grabbed all my energy and just chucked it out the window, because from feeling full of energy, I was suddenly really sleepy. I'm now on a road, on a very small road, where there's just one lane going in each direction. And I thought I really need to pull over and sleep, but there was no lay-bys, there's no hard shoulder or anything such as this. And I'm driving and I'm starting to get tired. You know that situation where you're driving and you're desperately trying to keep yourself awake? Have any of you been in that situation? And you're opening your eyes as wide as you possibly can, and you start singing, you turn the radio on, I open the window, it was -10 outside. I quickly closed the window. Next thing I knew, it was very dark, and I woke up and my car had swerved over to the left of the road, and the front left of the car seemed to be much lower than the rest of the car. I got out of the car and I realised I was on a mountain pass. There was a steep snowbank on my right and on my left. I'd smashed into this snowbank on the left, and as I peered over, there was a few 100 feet drop, and the left wheel was hanging over the edge of this mountain. I got back in the car, waited for a long time. Eventually, a bus full of Boy Scouts passed. 3 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea what they were doing at 3 o'clock in the morning. They've tried to push me out, no joy. Another car has come by. He's tried to push me out, no joy. And then this oil tanker came by. And the guy got out, and he was like something from a Scooby-Doo, like one of the baddies from Scooby-Doo. He's got this weird hat and dark eyes. He's got out, looked at me, hasn't said a word. He's got a tow rope out of his truck, tied it around the back of my axle on my car, tied it to the back of his truck. Now, normally when you tow someone out, you slowly ease out. He's just got in his truck, foot down, whacked me out about 30 miles an hour, nearly pulled the axle off the back of the car. But I was out. He then untied it, got back in his truck, drove off. Hasn't said a word to me the whole time. I wasn't sure whether I should have been terrified or thankful. As I left, as eventually he's pulled off, I got back in the car, driven, and it wasn't long before I saw a sign that said, "Welcome to hell." It turns out there's a small town in Norway called Hell. I pulled over and I slept in hell. Soon after that, I arrived in Buda, And that was my journey through hell. Mr. Toastmaster.